Hey, Coach Lora Erickson. Thanks for joining, Tony. Coach Lora Erickson with blonderunner.com. We'll wait just a minute and see if we can have some other people join us, and we'll talk about triathlon. I would love to have your questions. So as you join, if you want to tell us your name, if you're training for something, and then let me know what question that you might have about triathlon. I'll introduce myself a little bit more as people are joining, but please ask those questions. I really want this to be question answer. I'm hoping that you are able to put something. Can somebody say hi or something on there to make sure that the comments are working? I am seeing people that join. I want to make sure. I've had a problem with that in the past, so I want to make sure. Oh, good. Hello. Somebody's saying hello. Yay! So it is working. Good. If you have questions, that's what I really want this to be about, is your questions and how I can help you train if you're thinking about doing a triathlon. So let me just introduce myself a little bit more. So I am a coach. I have been coaching for 18 years. I have a running background. I've run for 30 years and I've been doing triathlon for 10. So if you have particular questions about training or getting started in training, please throw it out. If not, I'll just keep talking about stuff that I think is interesting for beginners. And I kind of want to start with how do you get started in a triathlon? And I'll share my experience. I actually went and watched several triathlons before I did my first because I just wanted to understand what it was all about. And like a lot of people, I had a lot of questions. Do you take a shower in between, do you change in between each sport? And no, you don't. You actually wear the same clothes the whole time. Do we have any other questions? I don't see a lot of questions. Maybe you guys just want to listen in here. Another question that I get a lot is, what do I wear? And I remember for my first triathlon, I had no idea till the night before. I was freaking out because I didn't know what I was going to wear. Because when I was training, I would train in a swimsuit in the swimming pool. When I was cycling, I was in cycling shorts. And then when I was running, I was in running clothes. And I didn't even think, what do I wear when I actually do a triathlon? So there's actually a triathlon top and a triathlon bottom. Let me show you. I have a picture here. So in the picture that I started this, how do you feel about wetsuits? Let's talk about wetsuits. In this picture, you can see, this is the old kit. I have a new one now, but you can see my tri-top and my tri-bottom. I had no idea what that even was when I started, but let's answer your question, because that's what we're here to talk about. So wetsuits, what particularly do you want to know about wetsuits? What I'll tell you, it depends on where you're located, if you can use a wetsuit in a triathlon, and of course, that's an open water swim that you would be doing for a wetsuit. I highly suggest the long sleeve wetsuits. The idea with wetsuit is that you're more buoyant and it's going to help you be faster at swimming. You're going to be more streamlined, more on top of the water. So yes, the comment was, mine tried to choke me while swimming. I will say that a lot of times a lot of people feel that way. And one thing that you could do is ease into your suit by you can use a sleeveless if that helps. And there are different kinds. Well, it could be true. It might not be properly fit. Most of the time, though, they do feel really tight. But I think part of it is, one, getting used to it. And two, I've seen some that cut the neck out. And their suit doesn't fall apart. That would work too. So if it is uncomfortable, it could be fit wrong. But I do want to tell you, with wetsuits, I particularly like Xterra wetsuits. They sponsor me, and I actually have, you guys are listening in, so you get this awesome information. I actually have a code that gets you 60% off any of their suits online. You go to xterrawetsuits.com, and you can use the code CO-blonde, all in capitals with an E, and that will give you 60% off. I'm not kidding. 60% off. And that only works for the wetsuits, and that's long sleeve, short sleeve, anything, and lava pants. So lava pants, if you're not familiar with lava pants, they are pretty much the bottoms of a wetsuit. So if you feel really constricted and you still want the buoyancy of a suit, most people, their problem is their hips and their tail and their legs going under the water. So if you have the lava pants, it's like the bottom of a wetsuit, it will get you up. And you can use those in races. Now, the cutoff for USAT rules is 78 degrees. So if it's above that, if you wear a wetsuit, you're not eligible for prizes. Or, if you're trying to qualify for something, then that wouldn't be a good thing. So There's also something called a speed suit. And actually, in about 4.5 weeks, I'll be doing an Ironman in Maryland. I'm actually in northern Utah. But most likely, it will be too warm to wear a wetsuit, and I'll have to wear a speed suit. And a speed suit's, it basically goes over your tri-suit, but it goes mid-thigh, and usually they're short sleeve or even a tank type thing. But they're much more slick. They're made with material that's a lot more slick, and so you do go through the water, but it doesn't have the buoyancy the thicker suits do. And so the lakes are always freezing in Canada. You're right. See, that's like Colorado. We're always wearing a wetsuit. So traveling all the way over there, it'll be the first time I've had to use my speed suit. I'm glad I have one because they're kind of expensive. But yeah, I mean, pretty much around here in Utah, we always plan to use our wetsuit. But one thing I will say about wetsuit use is definitely practice. You don't want to get into the triathlon and never use it before and then try it and then panic. A lot of people will get panic because of that constriction. I think part of it is trying to mentally control what you're thinking about. If you're thinking, oh, there's going to be something eating my toes, then you're going to be real nervous. So thanks for joining. If you have any questions, please type them in and we'll answer them as we go here. But we're just talking about wetsuits for a little bit. But definitely what's in your mind when you get in the water is going to help. If you're thinking, you can't think about, a lot of times you can't see in the water unless you're going somewhere tropical. You can't think about what's in the water. If you do, it kind of leads you down the wrong path. There's really not a lot of room for doubt when you're swimming, I think, in open water. You don't want to panic and those type of things. And another thing, it's good to get used to being touched on the pool, having other people touch you. Any race usually is like that. I think a lot of people, that leads to panic. So it is a good idea to practice in the open water with a wetsuit. A lot of my beginner athletes, I actually have them use their wetsuit in the pool first, because then there's no anxiety. I'll even get them in the shallow end. And there's no anxiety with drowning or anything like that. Let's take that piece out of it and then just have them start swimming in their wetsuit. And then I have them time themselves. That usually we have a times 50. They already do, and we can time themselves with a wetsuit, and they're faster. Oh, you get dizzy after you're standing in the water? Okay, yes, there is something that can help with that. Earplugs. Earplugs usually solve that problem. So a lot of people get vertigo, especially in open water. A lot more than a pool setting. One, it's longer swim usually, and things are moving around you for a distance, not just a small pool. So those earplugs usually help with vertigo. So give those a try, and they should help you a lot. So do you have any other questions about triathlon? Have any of you ever done one, or you thinking about it? And you have a bike, hopefully. That's one thing I want to touch on a little bit on. Equipment is kind of part of this. I think triathlon is not really the cheapest sport there is, but I love it because it's so multifaceted, and it's a sport that is always changing. Technology has really helped this sport come alive too, with GPS and watts and heart rate training and all those things. It's just great. But I think that can be intimidating for beginners. You don't have to have all that stuff. You basically need swim goggles, a cap, a suit. You can even, my first triathlon I did in my swimsuit, and then I pulled shorts over. I wouldn't recommend that, but I would say use tri shorts if you now you know about them. And then, you have I had the basic bike, the least expensive bike that you could get for a road. I suggest a road bike over a mountain bike, but I've had a lot of people start with triathlon with a mountain bike. And that works just fine. Just know that people will probably be passing you. You have a lot more resistance on the road. Other things to think about when you're getting started. Most people come from a running background, so that's great. Thanks for joining us, Amber. If you have questions, please type them in and we'll answer them as we go. The bike is definitely something that I think is new to a lot of people. That and swimming people are really nervous about, but I will tell you that swimming is probably the least important sport in terms of performance. Most of the people winning races are really good cyclists and really good runners. Really good runners usually make good cyclists if they've trained properly. So when it comes to choosing a bike, I would say go with a road bike first. If you even have a choice between a time trial and a road bike, I would go, it's less expensive usually for a road bike. and then just get aero bars on it, and then you learn to use those, and that will help you tremendously. You use the different larger muscles, that will help a lot. Um, Most people come from a running background, I find, with triathlon. So, like I have, it's a welcome change. It's so good for your body overall. Any tips for managing triathlon training with teaching group fitness classes? That's a really good question. And my question back would be, what kind of classes either are you teaching or taking? I have a lot of friends that are cycling instructors, and I think that's fantastic. However, I have found they a lot of times will ask me, "Gosh, how are you so much faster than me?" And they do a lot of cycling. The difference for me is I do cycling in an environment that is actually like the race. I ride outside a lot, and so a lot of those cycling classes they get them going, pushing so hard with a lot of resistance. But if you ride outside, you'll notice there's not that much resistance. There really isn't, unless you're going up a hill. So getting them going at a high cadence is what the benefit will be for. Okay, so I caught part of that. Strength training 5 days a week, which is fantastic. One thing I will say about strength training, though, is remember, whatever muscle you build, you have to carry with you. So the longer distance triathlon, you want to be a durable triathlete, not necessarily a really heavily weighted muscular triathlete. If you look at the magazines in triathlon, people are pretty thin. I mean, they're muscular, but they're not overly large. You got to carry that muscle. So if you're teaching those classes, I would definitely focus for yourself on like the core strengthening and muscles that are supportive to triathlon. You don't want to use the prime movers that are used in triathlon and wear them out. So when you get on your bike, you're petered out before you even begin. You got to kind of keep that in mind. So I didn't get the second part of that question. So I know you do the five days a week on the strength training, which is great. And I'm a big believer in core strength. So, things like plank, push-ups, pull-ups. I think that stuff's really good. And another weak muscle that I think is very beneficial, especially in your classes, is going to be your gluteus medius. Work that. This is where it externally rotates the femur. That's the problem I see. So pick up cycling classes to take them yourself then, or cycling classes are beneficial in the sense of a social environment. A lot of people work out better when they have accountability. So when you're teaching the class, I mean, it depends. Hopefully you're the kind of teacher that often asks them, what do they want? What do they want out of the class? What are they training for? I appreciate teachers that actually want to know what I need out of the class. Then I'm going to come back, right? But if they're training for a triathlon, the thing you got to focus on is short intervals. It depends on what triathlon they're training for as well. But a lot of times, the build and those kind of things are good. But really, hopefully they're coming to more than one class a week. And if they are, it'd be great if you actually structured a training that had some pacing work, that had some interval work, that had some hill work. You have different workouts for different reasons. That's how really training should be structured. So, but I don't think that a class can really replace outdoor training. And I find in classes, they're usually you've got a set bike. It's not your bike. It's not fit for you. I can't get comfortable on those indoor bikes very well, but I do think it's valuable for people that aren't necessarily maybe super competitive or anything. It's still very beneficial. It still burns a lot of calories. I find those upright bikes often work the quads more. My time trial bike, I'm very aero. I'm working more of my upper hamstrings and my glutes. That's going to be beneficial for me in terms of getting off the bike and running. But some of those people might just be cyclists and they're training for climbing and you've got to do a lot of out of the saddle stuff. And so that's going to be beneficial. And if you're teaching a class, oftentimes with those cycling classes, you're also doing the workout with them. But I find when I've done that before, even on my own bike, and we all bring our bikes and do a class, I find that it's hard for me to really push myself and talk and lead a workout. I found that it's better to separate my workouts from the class. And that also helps me. I walk around and I can look at their pedal stroke and I can give them feedback and I can ask them how they're doing. That's, I think, really beneficial for them. And you're really there for them. I think that class is for them. And then my training is for me, and I'll do that separately. So that would be my suggestion on that. But if you don't have time, then structure the workouts for what you need and hope that those people that are joining the class also have some of the same goals as you. And maybe all go together. Maybe say, hey, let's all train for, that would be a fun group dynamic, is train everybody for a race. Choose a race and say, let's all do this together. And, you know, that's the fun of group fitness, is that you have that camaraderie and everybody's doing the same type of thing. I actually have a triathlon team that I train, and I've been doing that team for about 10 years. And that's what they love, is they try to pick the races everybody else is doing too, and they talk amongst each other, and they want to do the races together. And it's fun to go to a race and people are cheering for you, and there's someone to watch out for you, and it's great. Triathlon clubs are awesome too, absolutely, because camaraderie is a big part of it for people, and you learn a lot from other people. The reason I post these is hopefully I'll share a tip with you that you didn't know about, and then I'll watch yours, and you can, teach me things I didn't know too. So you learn a lot with other people and in a group with other people. And experience teaches you a lot. I know with my training team, Team Blonde Runner, we have people from Ironman distance to beginner. Oh, okay. So you were the president of a club. That's fantastic. And it is, I guess I'd ask, what do you miss about it? I know that's a lot of work. So, but definitely I think sometimes that feeling of being able to share what you know, for me, it's a thrill. I love that. That really gets me going. To see people finish their first triathlon. Matter of fact, I'm really looking forward to Labor Day, because we have a local Labor Day triathlon. I actually did a clinic for them and taught people things, and it's so fun to see people finish their first one. And they have so many questions, and they're so eager to learn. I love that. I love it when I get athletes, even on my team that I've worked with for 3 or 4 years. A lot of them will come back every year, and I just get to watch them grow in this sport, and they're like, maybe I'll do an Ironman one day, and they weren't starting thinking that. And so they kind of inspire each other, and they grow with each other with the sport. And I think that's fantastic, because my whole goal, and maybe others that are watching, is to keep people motivated to be fit. And I think racing is a fantastic way to do that, because it's a commitment. Usually there's money tied to it. That usually gets people moving. And it's a deadline that can't be moved. You can't go, well, I'm not ready. Could you please change the date? You have to go because you signed up. It's not going to change for you. And I think that immediacy gets people going. So, any other questions that we have for triathlon training? What else could I help you with? I'm happy to share some of my information. And I've been coaching for 18 years, so I kind of know this stuff pretty well by now. I've worked with all levels of athletes as well. Beginners are my very favorite, probably because I get to see that process of learning and growing with a sport, and that's a super, super big thrill for me. So, any other questions? Hopefully you guys are all swimming, or you're getting started in your triathlon journey. And there's a lot of great information online. Matter of fact, this morning, if you happen to have nutrition questions, I did go through how to, what kind of nutrition that you would need for an Ironman distance, as well as marathon training. So I kind of shared some tips on that. So that's on my Periscope. It's still live. It was this morning, so you should be able to watch that. I do post most of my Periscopes after they've expired onto my YouTube account, which is The Blonde Runner. And I also have a lot of tutorials, like how to take your wetsuit off, and I'm going to be doing one on transitions and how to set them up. That's been a question I've gotten a lot. I'm also going to be talking about foam roller and some of these other ones, and injury prevention, things that I do for injury prevention. I'm big on hydration, and nutrition and exercise, I think, go together and really are important together. So yeah, if you have any other questions, and maybe you're watching this on the replay, you can certainly tweet me. Tweet me at Blonde Runner and just ask your question. I'll cover it in another Periscope, and I'm happy to share my experiences with you, and hope that you learn and you can start your own triathlon journey. Or running is great too. If you're not quite sure you want to take on a triathlon, running is great too. So just be fit, find things to do. Hope you guys are having a great night, and keep it healthy. If you haven't exercised yet, it's okay. go ahead and do it, because the night's not over yet. So make it a great day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.